Good morning. My name is Mike Taylor, and I am Senior Sales Director here at HYCU, joined by Jason Dalessio today, who's our Senior Sales Engineer here at HYCU, for a Demo-nar, which is a kind of a combination between a webinar and a demo. We call it a Demo-nar for our product HYCU Protégé, focusing on a use case today for Google Cloud. Thanks very much for joining the session today. It will be recorded, so you'll have access to it later through the BrightTalk platform. We really appreciate an interactive session today. So if you have questions during the presentation, if you could enter them in the chat, Jason and I will address them right away and make it part of our presentation. So to make it as much of a demo as we possibly can. Any questions, and feel free to shoot with any questions that you have. And we can answer them right away. Jason, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Jason Dalessio here, Senior Solution Architect or Sales Engineer. For HYCU, it's been a wonderful ride here. We've had some awesome product launches, and hopefully you guys can see Protégé for Google Cloud today. And let's take it away, Mike.
Great, thanks, Jason. So the format of today's presentation, we're going to do slides for probably about 5 to 7 minutes. And then we'll spend most of the time doing the presentation, give you a chance to ask questions and see the product actually in action. Before we start talking more specifically about HYCU Protégé for Google Cloud, let's just talk a little bit about us and our business for some of the folks that might be on the call that may not be as familiar with us. We're located here in Boston, and our heritage is really in data protection. So we have a lot of experience building data protection solutions for customers around the world. We're really built for enterprise cloud. So if you have workloads on-prem like VMware and Nutanix, we can back those up. And we can also back up all the public clouds that are available today. So Azure, Google, AWS is actually going to be launched officially here in the next few weeks. But basically any place that your data lives, HYCU can back it up with our software-only solutions. We have a worldwide customer base. We've got operations all over the world and over 3,100 customers worldwide. And we've grown fairly significantly over the last few years. One of the things that when people ask us about our business, what we do, when we talk about HYCU Protégé multi-cloud data protection, what we're really talking about is a software-based solution that allows you to back up your data to any location, no matter where it lives. So the goal for our business is to really help customers that want that have data that need to be backed up in public cloud or on-prem across the board. So that's really kind of what we do. We do it without agents. Everything we do is purpose-built for the cloud that it works on. So the solution you're going to see today, Google, is purpose-built for the Google Cloud. If you were to come to us and say, hey, I have a VMware implementation I need to have backed up, or I have a Nutanix implementation running AHV I need to have backed up, those are all things we can do as well as physical, AWS, Azure, and so forth, right? So really, across the board, no matter where the data lives, HYCU can back it up. We do it all agentlessly, and the solutions we have built are purpose-built for the clouds that they run on. Additionally, many customers ask us about application support. You can see in the bottom right here, we talk a little bit about SQL, MS Exchange, Active Directory, Oracle, and SAP HANA. Those are all applications that we support within the product. And you're going to see some of that today when we get into the demonstration. But the key thing to note is if you need an application consistent backup, HYCU can do it. And if you have a solution that's outside of those, outside of the bounds there, those applications like MongoDB or something of that nature, we can support that as well with some customized scripting that we do. Everything's done in software. We're a multi-cloud backup and recovery company. And today we're going to focus on our solution for Google Cloud. When we built the Google Cloud solution a few years ago, we worked with the Google team exclusively to build a solution that was available in the Google marketplace and was native to Google. So what that means when you think about our solution, which is backup as a service for Google, or we call it BAS as a service for Google, backup as a service for Google, is that there's zero deployment, maintenance, and configuration. So when a customer comes to us and says, hey, I'm looking at moving workloads into Google, or I'm running in Google today, or I'm looking at GKE within Google, or any kind of the raft of different questions we get, that basically the answer for us is simply go to the marketplace, subscribe to the service, and you can begin backing up right away. So what that means for customers is they don't have to do any infrastructure planning. They don't have to size anything. They don't have to think about, hey, what kind of resources do I need to dedicate to this? It's a very, very simple implementation. And we're very, very smart in the cloud. So when customers come to us and say, hey, I want to tier within buckets within GCS, we can do that, right? Or if they say, hey, I really need to optimize, for specific geographies based on where my business is or what my business rules are, we can do that. There's a number of different things we can do to help reduce cost and increase efficiencies within Google. Finally, we give you a single pane of glass within the Google workloads, right? So if you're running and you need to back up GCE, GKE, GCS, we can do all those things within Google and make it a very, very seamless solution. Talked a little bit about applications previously. So the key thing is that we auto detect and protect applications that we talked about. So applications on GKE and GCE and back up to GCS, right? So that's something we do very, very simply and easily. And I would say, more than anything, we get a lot of traction, a lot of requests around backup for SAP HANA. We've done significant integration work with SAP on Google, such that migration is very simple for customers who are looking to migrate to Google Cloud, as well as DR. And we'll talk about a little bit about that when we get into the demonstration. Finally, when we talk about protecting custom applications, like I mentioned previously, if a customer comes to us and say, hey, I want to run Postgres on Google, can you help me back it up? The answer to that is yes, with our pre and post application framework that gives you data consistent backups of those applications. Jason, is there anything you want to add to the slide?
Excuse me, Mike. Yeah, no, I think you're doing a great job. Yeah, the key point here is all of these different applications are unique to themselves, but HYCU has the ability to basically ingrain into these solution stacks and then leverage the Google Cloud to its best practices to basically back up anything that's out there that resides in these cloud stacks and give you application consistent backups. The cool part here is you can actually take these backups and write them to different buckets around different regions around the world, and also offer immutable options as well. So even different subscriptions. So in the event that if there is a ransomware attack, you have the means of recovery to a completely different subscription that is 100% isolated from the infected solution overall. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jason makes a great point, and you see that on the next slide. So a lot of questions come up today around the ransomware, the issue of ransomware and cybersecurity, cyber resilience. When we talk to customers, they say, hey, I have these workloads running in Google. What can you do to make sure that my data is safe? And the answer to that question on the far right, as you see there, is an air-gap secure backup to a worm-enabled, that's write once, read many, worm-enabled GCS bucket that might be in a different project, as Jason mentioned, or a different geography than your primary workloads run in. So again, very simple to do, very easy to configure, and then we can apply the retention rules that you have to that data as normal throughout your business. So we talked a little bit about storage efficiency here. We're cloud native, right? We'll talk a little bit about the performance, and you'll see how the product works when we get into the demonstration. But that's the key thing. And I just see a question here in the chat. Somebody said, how are you guys different from, it looks like a legacy, my current backup provider, I won't name who it is, but it looks like one of the legacy providers. And that's a great question. So the difference between us and the legacy guys is generally, the legacy provider is going to want you to build a VM or have agents, have things running in your environment, in your project 24/7, 365 that suck up GCE resources. The difference between them and us is quite simply we're a service. You deploy, it spins up and it spins down within Google when you need it, and you don't suck up all those resources. So we have a lot of customers that come to us and say, hey, I looked at taking my legacy backup provider on-prem and bringing it up into Google Cloud because I knew it and I was familiar with it, and that's fine. But what we see is those solutions just simply don't work. They're not efficient. They're not cost effective. Then they take a look at our solution, purpose built, based on software only, doesn't require agents or any additional servers to run up in the cloud, and we deliver it as a service, and they find it to be a better experience. So that's a great question, kind of comparing us to a legacy provider in the cloud. I like to spend a little bit of time on this slide because it just kind of takes you through how the product itself actually works. So it is backup as a service. And the first point of integration here is one of the things that makes us different is we integrate with Google Identity Access Management. So what that means is if you're a Google customer today, you have rules and processes set up for how to identify users and authenticate users into the system. HYCU just integrates into what you've already set up with Google. So you don't have to go out and do separate authentication, identity access management. You don't have to do anything different than you're doing today. The people that have access to your Google projects and instances today will be the same people, if you grant them that access, that have access to HYCU. So it's very simple and easy to do. And again, generally, security is a big part of any implementation going to the public cloud. The fact that we're already integrated with identity access management makes us, again, a very simple solution to deploy. It's important to note that we support all Google regions and buckets and projects. We can back up data living in GCE or Google Compute Engine, GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine, or GCS, Google Cloud Storage, right? So it's important to note that no matter where the data lives, HYCU can back it up. We do it very simply. We were the first ones to deploy for Google Kubernetes Engine, and we have many customers today now backing up containers running in Kubernetes with our solution to GCS. Also, from a storage efficiency perspective, we auto tier those buckets, right? So if you say, hey, I'm going to have 1 week worth of backups at a specific bucket or a specific tier, then I want to go to a colder tier, and finally, when I want to go to a cold tier, as per your policies on-prem or what you've had as a legacy solution, we can do that as well. So it's important to know that those are all options available within our solution for Google. Of course, many customers have on-prem, and we talk about HYCU Protégé. We talk about customers that are doing migrations from on-prem to Google, and in our solution, in our case, we want to be able to help those customers make those migrations. So if there's a migration we can help with, we're happy to do that as well. So again, this is a Demo-nar. So that's the kind of slides on the front end. I see one other question that we'll address before Jason starts, and I'll let Jason get started with the demonstration now. But the other question that popped up was someone said, could you give us a cost? It looked like someone was looking for kind of a pricing model. So we do price per gigabyte, and that's in the Google Marketplace. So you'll be able to see based on what tier you want to use, what the price is per gig per month. And that the other kind of the second question was, it looked like, does it go against my Google bill? And the answer to that question is yes. So all the consumption that you use on HYCU and the storage related to HYCU goes against your Google commit. Helps, in some cases, helps customers burn that down. So, and we're happy to address pricing as we get along here.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. All right, so what I'm going to demo here is basically just the provisioning aspect of HYCU, how simple it is. We're in the marketplace in Google Cloud. So you just simply subscribe to us. Moments later, you will have an email that says, please log into your Google account. And you obviously use your identity access management credentials for Google. So if we come out here and we look under HYCU, you'll be able to find us right here under the marketplace. Now inside of here, you can see all of the pre-planned pricing, everything else is out here, a general overview of how we do things, some documentation as well as support. But from a pricing perspective, like Mike said earlier, it's predictable, right? So it's basically saying, look, this is how much data I'm protecting and this is how often I'm backing it up. And you have a good idea of how to schedule or plan those operational costs down the road. So simply enough, once you subscribe to the solution, you would be able to log in directly to the actual platform using your Google password. So now that I'm in this actual HYCU for Protégé for Google, basically I'm looking at my protection sets. So once I've come out here, I can define my service accounts for any individual that would want to manage this environment. Maybe I have third-party tool sets or users that want to manage this infrastructure for me. But from a protection set perspective, if I have prod, non-prod, if I have demo environments, I have development environments, you can choose to exclude or include those environments into a single space for a single pane of glass for management for that entire subscription. Even if there's multiple subscriptions, you would just log in with each individual subscription user account. But at this point, you can see a single clean dashboard for my entire environment, what I'm subscribed for, how my backups are performing, if there's any events or tasks that I see that seems to have any anomalies. Everything's right here, right in front of you. And it's also interactive. I can click anywhere on this dashboard and it takes me directly to where I need to see, so that I have, within 2 clicks, I can troubleshoot my entire environment if I see something is acting abnormally. The other cool part about the SaaS offering with HYCU is it's 100% a SaaS offering. Therefore, there is no support that you have to deal with. Pretty much 99% of the time, if there is an issue or a concern or a backup fails, HYCU's already proactively worked on it and or working on it, and you will be notified via email that this incident occurred. Here's your ticket number in response to whatever we may have resolved, and so forth. So that way you have some form of tracking and an indicator that can go back to your support team internally and say, yep, we saw this, here's the resolution to it. So an instance basically is all of the VMs that are running inside of my Google environment. We do auto synchronize with these. So anytime a net new VM is automatically created or generated, HYCU is going to automatically ingest that VM into the project. So at that point, you're able to see everything live. Pretty much there's about a 5-minute delay from a new VM being ingested into HYCU. What we also like to talk about here is the fact that we do discovery. This discovery process is a patented process to where once you apply a credential to the VM, we're able to run our patented discovery process, which basically looks at the VM and make sure accessibility is there, that we could read, write, but as well, we look for specific applications that may be running on these VMs. And this is where if I go to my application list, you can see that I have some GKE applications. I also have SAP HANA, but even if there was SQL, Postgres, WordPress, any of those other types of applications that you may want to be running into this cloud stack, you have the ability to simply leverage this tool set, deploy any type of customized scripting that may freeze or thaw the databases. Perhaps you want to dump data or logs to a specific bucket. HYCU can actually back up the buckets itself. So now you have a full granular application consistent recovery path for any type of data set that you may be leveraging in the Google Cloud. So now, a couple other things I want to just kind of showcase here is pretty much it's very simple to see what's being protected, what's not. If I come out here and I click on a VM, you can see that I have all of these different restore points that are out here available to me, some general information about the actual restore point, but what occurred during this backup, how long it took, where did it go, what my compliance of this backup means, and I'll get to compliance in a brief moment. But overall, I also have the ability to catalog any of the data that's in the VM and browse that file set and look for any particular file or folder and perform single file recovery directly from the VM to any other VM or anywhere else that I would like to restore this data to. So simply enough, I have a copy of this data that I've sent to a different bucket in a different region for my own protection's sake, as well as a snapshot. We're leveraging the actual native Google snapshots to where now I can do multi-snapshot management, maybe perhaps do hourly snapshots for one day, then send a copy of a daily backup to a different region or a different bucket that has its own retention terms, perhaps 30 days. But I can also then do an archive, perhaps on a weekly or a monthly or an annual basis. And each of those have their own independent targets or tiers of buckets that I can write this data to, therefore saving you cost for the long-term retention requirements and minimizing that expenditure. All right, I can basically show you that I can do full restoration of an instance. I could even clone instances. I can clone instances to different regions, different zones, even different buckets. I have this full granularity. I can change the network parameters and configuration of the VMs. So it's really a trusted environment. Restore of disk, cloning of disk, and even exportation of disks. One thing that HYCU is very proud of is we do not hold any data in a proprietary format. If something is protected by HYCU, you will always be able to restore that data back from HYCU or even export that data directly from the tool set into any native file share, and then you can basically export it to wherever you wish. File level recovery is also an option here. We can restore back to the same instance to any other instance or even restore it directly to a target bucket. What we do here is basically once we've decided what we want to select from, whether it's the copy or a snapshot or automatic, obviously HYCU will choose the snapshot when it's doing this. What's really unique about this, and this is where the differentiators of what Mike was talking about earlier from other legacy products versus the HYCU product. What we're doing is we're actually initiating a worker instance that's going to go out and actually attach to this disk, mount that catalog, and browse the data set live. This is an actual provisioning of a VM that's coming out of the Google resources to mount to this storage and give us visibility into this restore point. Pretty much all other legacy products that are agent-based or built on physical components that have to be deployed in the cloud, which are provisioned and running 24/7 all the time, which now you're paying for. A lot of those resources require the storage to be upfront. So not only do you get to pay as you go, you actually have to allocate your storage day one and pay for that all the time. A couple of these other solutions require hot storage so that the data is a little bit faster to be written to disk. where HYCU natively writes directly to S3. We don't require any hotter bucket. We can write directly to a cold tier, which also gives you a lot of cost savings down the road. This is really a unique situation to where I can perform VM backups from 10 VMs today to 10,000 VMs tomorrow, and HYCU won't even blink an eye. Because of that dynamic elasticity, you can go from 10,000 VMs tomorrow back to 10 on Friday, and you'll be good to go. HYCU will simply scale to suit. So now that we've mounted this disk, I can actually browse this disk stack. I can come out here and look for any file, any folder. I can restore that single file or folder directly to any VM, the same VM. I can look for any of this data right here. Let's pick these two files. And at this point, I can choose the exact location where those files reside. I can choose a different path. I can even just change the file extension to restore or original. So it's very straightforward, simple to use. HYCU does maintain the access control of those files as well. So it's really a granular aspect where I'm not doing full rehydration of a VM or a data set to actually perform file level recovery. And you witnessed this in a quick webinar, basically how simple and easy that was to do. Now, from an application perspective, especially something like SAP HANA, where I'm able to actually come out here to a VM, I can look at any of my incremental backups. You can see I have a full here from last week. I click on a restore point and I want to restore this actual database. I can choose to restore this to a different instance, to a different zone. I can pick my actual database. And because we are performing application consistent backups, where truncation of the logs occurs, quiescing of the database is occurring, flushing IO to disk, all of this is being done to the application developers' best practices. HYCU has the ability to actually restore these databases back to the second by applying the logs back to the restore point. This is extremely efficient, and the fact that the integration is directly built into your native tool set that's running natively in the Google Cloud is a huge differentiator from any other tool set that's out there. Everyone else is going to require some form of an agent, some form of a connector to be able to communicate to the application stack, but then try to communicate to the cloud stack, execute snapshots. Most of them are going to be VS level operating system snapshots, not native storage snapshots from the cloud. And that adds a lot of cumbersomeness, a lot of clunkiness, and degradation of the application while the backup is occurring. So moving on here, I know we're coming up to the end of our time frame.
Hey, Jason, sorry, a couple of questions from the chat, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go for it.
First one is, do you back up Cloud SQL or other GCP or GCP database or managed services? I know we do Cloud SQL, so that's a yes, right?
Yeah, so at this point, anything in Google is pretty straightforward, where we could script any type of SaaS-based application to dump any of its transaction logs to a bucket, and HYCU has the unique ability to back those buckets up as well. So the short answer of that, yes, there is probably a process or a flow that we have to go through to ensure the application is consistent. But I think the general answer is yes, I don't see that being a problem.
Great, thank you.
No worries, no worries. Thanks, it gave me a chance to take a swig of water here, Mike. All right, so policy management. So basically what we're doing here is you want to apply, let's think of it as an SLA, service level agreement. This is any VMs that I want to protect in my bronze policy will adhere to a once a day backup. Every 24 hours, these VMs will be backed up. You have different tiers. By default, you have a gold, silver, bronze, and also an exclude. Exclude's obvious, right? You don't want to back the VM up, it won't be backed up. But within these policies, gold is every 4 hours, silver is every 12 hours, platinum, if you want to go to the extreme and do every 1 hour or every 2 hours, you have that flexibility, and you can simply just adhere a VM to this policy, and at that point, that policy will maintain that SLA that you defined within the parameters of the policy. You can also define a default policy, which means, hey, my lowest tier, bronze, once a day backup, turn this on as a default policy. That's now a catch-all. That means any new VM that gets created, HYCU is automatically going to ingest it from the Google Cloud and automatically schedule it to be backed up in the bronze policy. Like I said, no VM left behind. So we can also apply any type of windows to where, hey, I want my backups to only occur during this time frame. You absolutely have the ability to define a backup window. You also have the ability to define archiving schemes. So these archiving schemes are obviously for compliance purposes, long-term retention purposes. This is where you can define your daily backup archives to write to a specific bucket with its own individual retention per se, let's say 7 days for dailies. And then your weeklies kick in. Your weeklies you can retain for 8 to 12 weeks. Your monthlies can then kick in, and monthlies can be retained for months or years. And then obviously your annuals, which most people that need annuals are saving them anywhere from 1 year to 10 years or even longer. So this is really, truly the unique flexibility to where every single one of these archives can be written with their own retention and their own target class. So now you're writing these, the colder they get, the cheaper they get, the longer the term they get. So really a lot of flexibility here. So now I'm going to edit a policy. This is just a standard backup policy. So you can see I'm doing a backup once a day. I'm keeping these for 2 days. These are actually written in snapshot form. So you have the ability to leverage snapshots for instantaneous recovery and allow you to have super quick restores. But if you just want to write that data to a bucket versus a snapshot, you have that flexibility. And also that's going to save you some money down the road as well. If you want to apply your backup window, just simply enable it and choose the backup window of your choice. Now, a copy job. This is where if I want a local region copy, but I want to send another copy to a different zone in a different region, you obviously have that ability to do so. This is where you can choose an independent copy window retention period, and then just simply pick the target for where you want that copy to reside. Another awesome feature, this is that archiving. I just simply turn on and choose the archive policy that I wanted to have selected. And then the last option is labels. This is really important now because as you may be doing auto provisioning, or you might be using some systems like containerization to deploy multiple VMs or application stacks, you can define those labels within Google, and those labels will be adhered to whatever the specific label is, or the nomenclature of the VM name that can automatically apply to any specific policy that's out here for HYCU, right? So there's really awesome tool set of the orchestration thought process where it's like, hey, I want to define any VM that has SAP HANA to define directly to my SAP HANA tool set. And when you set that up, you can define that your tags or your labels will be defined as SAP HANA, right? So if I just put in here SAP HANA and I'm good to go, I set that up to my SAP HANA, that same policy, and you're good to go. Anything that gets created with that label will automatically adhere to that policy. So now targets, you can see I have multiple targets in multiple regions around the world. I have that ability to do so. You also have the ability to isolate your targets to a specific region for data locality. Perhaps certain countries only allow their data to reside in that single country. Obviously, task management or jobs, you can simply look through any task that's occurred. You can look at any report and see the throughputs, feedputs, how fast something is going or performing. I can look at file level restore for this and actually see what file was actually performed or restored. So there's a lot of information out here. Webhooks, event notifications, yes, all of that's obviously available in our tool set. Reporting is the other huge aspect that I really want everyone to look at, is the fact that you can generate or customize your own reports. You can preview what your last 24 hours looked like, and just basically get an emailed report of everything that's occurring in the Google Cloud, so that you can feel confident that your infrastructure is being backed up, is being protected properly. And you can also email these, schedule these emails, and email them in various formats to any member of your team, so that everyone feels confident that your Google platform is being protected by the best-in-class HYCU product that's out there for HYCU Protégé for Google. Now, lastly, from a management perspective, if you did have an on-prem solution, our HYCU Protégé dashboard here is basically an all-encompassing dashboard that shows everything, whether it's between HYCU that's running on-prem, whether it's running in Google Cloud, which was today's focus, but even for Azure, even Office 365, HYCU has an entire suite that can protect anything that you have, whether it's in a SaaS offering cloud or a public cloud or even an on-prem enterprise cloud solution. And that concludes my demo today. I know we're coming up right up to 11:30. So Mike, I'll leave it to you for some closing statements.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jason. That was great. Just wanted to put up one last slide, folks, while we're coming up here on time. And that is just if you want to see HYCU Protégé for Google for yourself, you just need to request a trial at tryhycu.com. Again, that's tryhycu.com. If you reach out, one of the folks on our team will get back to you and make sure you get it set up with a subscription. Or as Jason showed you earlier, take a look at the Google Marketplace, and there's a trial up there as well. So Would love to have any conversations with anyone on your team if you're looking at Google, if you need backup, if you need immutable backup, if you need application consistent backup through our service, HYCU Protégé for Google Cloud. That ends our Demo-nar today. Hopefully this was a good session for everyone, and appreciate everyone taking the time. Thanks very much and have a great day.
Thank you.